What is up, NFL fans, and welcome to Betting with the Barbers, powered by Superbook Sports. I'm Ron Kruk. Those two dudes are the Barber brothers, former New York Giant Tiki Barber and former Tampa Bay Buck Rondé Barber. Guys, and then there was one. We enter into week number 5. Only one team remains undefeated. That's the Arizona Cardinals. On the flip side, two teams still searching for their first victories. That is the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But how about those New York teams? Both the Jets and Giants got their first wins last week. Give us your thoughts and takeaways from week number 4.
Yeah, week number 4 was so interesting. You're right about my Giants and the Jets. They just found ways to hang around long enough and for the Giants to make an epic comeback in the last few minutes of that game, down 11 points against the Saints on the road. So, yeah, you got to be happy for them. But I'm not sure they're favorites for anything other than getting better. The one team that you worry about in this league right now is the Arizona Cardinals. You mentioned them, the lone undefeated. They are dominant on the offensive side of the ball. They control it with their run game, and Kyler Murray's got to be the favorite in the MVP at this point.
On fire.
Well, I agree with you about Arizona. How can you not love what the Cardinals are doing? It's funny, though. I turn on the tape, right? And it feels like you're watching a high school game. Not only the way that they're dominating people, but everybody's in low digits. Connor's number 6. Hopkins is 10. Chase Edmonds is number 2. Rondell Moore. I'm like, who's Rondell Moore? He's number 4. It's like this is a dominant high school team just toying with everybody who they play against. But yeah, this is week 4 was a great week. It was the week that we expected it to be. There was great games. I don't think the Raiders are who we think they are after getting annihilated by the Chargers on Monday night. But I'll say this: there are 12 teams in the NFL right now that are 3-1. That, to me, it shows you the parity in this game. And we talked last week about the AFC West. They're 3-1 with the Kansas City Chiefs in the basement. How about the AFC North? 3 teams 3-1 with the Pittsburgh Steelers under Mike Tomlin, who've never had a losing season, in the basement. This is going to be a great season, man. I can't wait.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And the Patriots just with one victory too. Kind of crazy. But I was looking at it, guys. How important is it to be that last undefeated team in the NFL? Well, not so much. The 2006 Indianapolis Colts are the only team from the past 2 decades to stay unbeaten the longest and win the Super Bowl. So that's just a random stat I threw out. The favorites, though, guys, they came out in week number 4. They went 9-7 over the underdogs. But again, as we've kind of preached all year, if you're picking a dog, you might as well go all in and do it on the money line because 5 of those 7 dogs won outright. Well, we have arrived at week number 5, fellas, of the NFL season, a week where you begin to kind of get a better idea of who these teams really are. And, you need to stay on top of these odds and the line movement. You do that at superbook.com and make sure that you download the Superbook app today for the latest lines, special betting promotions, and follow us on social media at Superbook Sports. We kick off week number 5, fellas, with a huge NFC West matchup on Thursday Night Football. The LA Rams, 3-1, traveling to Seattle for a battle with the Birds, taking on the 2-2 Seahawks. The Rams suffered their first loss of the year last week against that Arizona offense that you just mentioned. Seattle is coming off a much-needed win in San Francisco. They both make a quick return to the field on Thursday night. The line here, according to Superbook Sports, the Rams, guys, opened up as -1 favorites on the road. Money coming in on LA. They are currently -2 favorites, over under point total sitting at 54.5. Let's start with you, Tiki. Break down this matchup on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, the one thing that worries you from a Seattle Seahawks standpoint, despite having a big win last week, is their defense sucks. It's just really, really bad. And I know they have some good players on Jamal Adams on that side of the ball, but it's just really been on Russell Wilson being pristine. No interceptions on the season. He chunks it up to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and they make some big plays. They each have 3 TDs. But for me, the Rams got beat by a better team because they couldn't get them off the field, right? You look at Kyler Murray and his ability to improvise. That pass rush by Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd, who have some of the highest pressure rates in the league, is negated by a mobile quarterback, and he's been fantastic. I like the Rams to rebound after their first loss of the season. Maybe they were humbled a little bit. Sean McVay will figure some things out. But even on the road in CenturyLink, which is very hard place to play in, I like the Rams laying 2.5 here.
I 100% agree with you. And for the most salient point you made, that Seahawks defense, 457 yards to a Jimmy Garoppolo less San Francisco 49ers last week. It is a bad defense, and on a team that's never had bad defenses, right? This team's always been boosted by Russell Wilson's ability to create. So that if you're a Rams fan, if you're Rams better, you're somewhat worried about his ability to escape. But when you look at what they're trying to do on offense, I mean, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are really their only options. They got some good runners, but it's essentially what can Russell Wilson do to make a magical play? And I don't think that's an offense that sustains itself against what I think is a really good Rams defense. One that, had a bad day last week because high school Arizona Cardinals offense led by Kyler Murray is doing it to everybody. So I think they rebound here as well. This is the right line. You make it 2. You probably could take it a little bit higher. This Seattle team's not as good as advertised as they have been in years past. And I think the Rams are like you said, Tiki, 100% ready to bounce back and win on the road.
Here's an important stat for anti-Russell Wilson lovers. Jalen Ramsey, 56.7% completion percent against. That's not good for anybody. And also, as has been the case almost his entire career, Russell Wilson's already been sacked 11 times. He's on pace for 47.
That's a long year.
Wow.
That's every year too. It's crazy that he survives as many times as he gets hit.
I don't know how he does it, but yeah, somehow he does survive. Great insight, guys. The Rams are 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings with Seattle. Remember, the lines are subject to change. I'm with you, man. I think that the Rams defense, they look to rebound in this game after giving up 465 yards last week to that high school Cardinal offense, man. I think they fix it. This is the second straight week that Seattle's the underdog. That doesn't happen too much at home, but I like the Rams. We're going to make it a clean sweep. I'm going with the Rams. Make sure to stay on top of all the line movement at superbook.com and for the latest lines, point totals, and Superbook promotions. Okay, rematch of last year's AFC Championship game in which the Chiefs won, as the Sunday Night Football matchup has the 3-1 Buffalo Bills and the 3-1 Kansas City Chiefs. Rematch, guys, from last year's AFC Championship game, but it looks like this Buffalo team might be a little different from last year, but we have 2 of the top 3 scoring offenses in the NFL facing off. The Chiefs offense exploded last week. Mahomes throwing 5 touchdowns and a 42-30 win over the Eagles. The Chiefs never punted last week.
Yeah.
What the? And neither did Philly. That's only the 4th time in history that's happened. But the Bills steamrolled the Texans 40-0, easily covering that 18-point college spread. The Bills defense looks incredible right now. Opening odds, according to superbook.com, Kansas City came in, fellas, as a -2 favorite. Just check the odds. Money's coming in on the Chiefs. They are now at -3, and the point total over under is at 56.5. Rondé, we'll let you kick this one off.
Well, this is Tiki can probably better tell you about Buffalo since he just did that game, that blowout. Right. I don't know how you managed to sit through 40 points on one side of the ledger.
Well, brother, we lost power in the stadium, so we didn't even call the third quarter.
That's probably a good thing.
That weather was brutal, wasn't it?
But to me, this is Buffalo's first test. Look, they've beaten Pittsburgh, who we've kind of found out is not as good as advertised either. They beat Miami, Washington, who had a terrible day.
They lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to
Pittsburgh. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then they beat Miami, Washington, who wasn't good that day. And they just eviscerated Houston. So to me, this is their first real test. And it's against probably the the preemptive Super Bowl favorite in the AFC, despite the Bills' record. So I like this line too, because Kansas City, they can score points at will. They do a lot of helter-skelter, off-schedule stuff with Mahomes, and he's thrown some interceptions this year, and they put themselves in bad positions. That being said, they're still the most dominant, explosive offense that I've seen in many, many years, and I don't see the Bills' defense, even though they are clicking, being able to contend with that. I love that the Bills do, and Tiki can attest to this as well because he just saw them, that they have 9 different players that can get after your quarterback. They have 9 guys with sacks. They have 2 great safeties in Poyer and Micah Hyde. So if anybody can contend with the Kansas City Chiefs, it's these guys. And I still don't think it's enough. I still think the Kansas City Chiefs are the better football team. They're going to win at home.
Yeah, well, I'm fading my brother, and I'm fading where the money is going on this one. Give me the Bills +3 in this game right now. Here's the reality of this situation. The Buffalo Bills started this game last week very slow. Josh Allen threw an interception, and then he started doing crazy things, like 4th and 1 at near midfield. Instead of running a QB sneak, he's lined up on the center. Both tight ends are locked in there. What are you going to just run a QB sneak? Get behind this big dude. He pieces out around the edge. He goes 16 yards down the sideline because everybody was jammed in the middle. He does off-schedule things that are like different than what other people do off-schedule. He told us in our production meeting, we have these clear-out routes that actually become routes because these guys keep plays. They're able to keep plays aligned. You talked about their defense, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. Poyer was out last week, and they had a 6th-round pick from the University of Miami, Jaquan Johnson, who started in his place. He was outstanding. He had an interception in this game, albeit against Davis Mills, who doesn't really know what he's doing, but the defense really does have the ability to get after them. And offensively, who you stopping, man? They play 11 personnel. They're wide ass open. Both running backs are good. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, despite his vaccination status, and Diggs, Stephon Diggs, who was an All-Pro last year. Oh, and by the way, Dawson Knox, their tight end, might be one of the best athletes in the NFL at that position. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. So I like the Bills to continue rolling. And by the way, I don't know why Mike Riggs, our producer here, predict 2 of the worst defenses to put into this schedule. You know who's second worst in the NFL? The Kansas City Chiefs behind the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep, they are bad. I think that's the key, Tiki, right there. I think it's a tale of 2 defenses. The Buffalo D is just dominating, and the Kansas City defense, I think, is struggling a little bit. I mean, the Bills, 2 shutouts in 4 weeks, and they forced 11 turnovers in the last 3 weeks. That, to me, is crazy. They've given up the fewest points in the NFL, just 11 points per game, and they're outscoring their 3 opponents by a combined score 118-21. Of course, a 40-0 win, as Tiki had to sit through last week to do that. But I think I'm with Tiki on this one. I think the Bills will get to Mahomes and make a few more stops. This is going to be a shootout. I'm going with the Bills. Of course, the Chiefs come in at 2-2.
I'll only say real quarterback coming against this Bills defense.
Well,
I mean, unless you like Tyler Heineke and Davis Mills and
Jacoby Brissett.
Right. I mean, they did lose to Ben Roethlisberger, who is half of himself right now.
That was mostly their own fault. They had a special teams error.
I love disagreeing with you.
Wait for Drew Lock this week. And you guys hit it. These 2, as we wrap up the Chiefs and the Bills, these are the 2 top favorites to win the AFC. The Chiefs leading the way at 3-1, the Bills right behind them at +375. All right, let's move on to game number 3 here on Betting with the Barbers, and one of the great rivalries in the NFL, the New York Football Giants, after their big win last week at New Orleans, travel to take on their rival, the Dallas Cowboys. And before we get to the breakdown, TK, I'd love to just ask you, what was it like as a Giant during Cowboy Week?
Oh, Cowboy Week is the best week. I mean, there's a reason that the Giants, when Jerry World was first built, the new AT&T Stadium down there, the Giants would get chosen scheduling-wise to go down there and be the sacrificial lambs. But we'd always go down there and beat them. I wasn't on the team, but they would always go down there and beat them. There's always something to this rivalry. It's exciting. It's intense. Growing up, both me and Rondé and I, as Washington fans at the time, Redskins, but now the football team, right? We hated the Cowboys. I was fortunate enough to get drafted into the NFC East, so I doubly hated the Cowboys. so the intensity of this week is always so huge. And let's not forget Jason Garrett, the Giants offensive coordinator, is kind of going back home to where he had his head coaching stint for a lot of years.
And here are the opening lines, fellas. The Cowboys opened the week as a -7.5 favorite. The current line, according to Superbook Sports, is Cowboys by 7. The point total is at 52. A large number for a divisional matchup. But Tiki, let's go to the former New York Giants and get your take first.
Look, the New York Giants are figuring it out. I think Daniel Jones is proving that he is that guy. He threw for 400 yards last week. He's not making mistakes. Yeah, I know he had an interception, but that was at the end of the half, Hail Mary. Maybe he didn't have an extra 5 yards on it, and it probably would have got knocked down, or maybe even caught. But he's playing great football. Their run game is still leaving things to be desired, even though Saquon does seem to pop one every single game. He had the big wheel route down the sideline that helped them start that comeback on a little bit of a busted coverage or just a mismatch that Daniel Jones was able to take advantage of. I love that Kadarius Toney is finally showing up. Galloway, who they spent all that money in free agency, is starting to show up. But unfortunately, I want to pick them so bad, but the logic in me tells me that this Cowboys team is playing at an incredibly high level. I mean, Dak Prescott is living up to every dollar of that contract that they gave him. Zeke Elliott, who we faded for Tony Pollard last week, just said, all right, you think I'm not good enough? Let's take this, right? And then defensively, Trevon Diggs, who we just talked about, Stephon Diggs, his brother, he's got 5 interceptions. He's got 5, one in each game. And the dude is a ball hawk. Under this Dan Quinn system, these guys are excelling. They are fantastic. They got 3 guys with multiple sacks. From Randy Gregory has 2. Micah Parsons, I should say, has a 2.5. And so they can get after you, and they play great behind it. I like the Cowboys, unfortunately, playing the 7 here. I mean, I saw it someplace at 6.5, which is a sucker bet. But
good point.
I still would take the Cowboys.
I think that the Giants will keep this close, but I'd still take the points. I mean, division games, especially Giants-Cowboys division games, they're unpredictable. There's always that emotion, that extra oomph that shows up in these type of football games, especially early in the year, with Dallas being the team that they are, and the Giants being the team that they are. They have something to prove. I mean, you talk about this Dallas Cowboys offense; it's like juggernaut-ish. They are putting up numbers, not only throwing the football like they did early in the season, but now running the football. These past couple of games, they can beat you so many different ways. The weapons on offense speak for themselves, and I like the Giants defense. I think they're getting better, but I don't think they have enough to contend with what's coming at them from the Dallas side of the ball. And then you talk about Daniel Jones. You can't speak about the Giants without saying how well he is playing. He leads the team in rushing. He's somewhat commiserate in yards with some of the top passers in the NFL. So do I think they'll keep this close? Yeah, I think having John Ross, a deep threat, will open up some of that passing offense for these guys. Saquon looks a little bit better as the weeks have gone off, and there's nothing like a hot seat, right? There's nothing like a hot seat on Jason Garrett to get him to change up his offense, which he did last week. They look diversified. They look like they had something, other than what he was running when Tiki was his running back in the 2000s on offense. They looked good. But that being said, it's still going to be a 7-point game. Dallas is just too good. They're doing it to everybody, just like Arizona's doing it to everybody. The Cowboys are doing it to everybody. Their defense is good enough They're still bottom of the league in passing yards, but you can mitigate that when you have 8 turnovers, 5 of them by Trayvon Diggs. But you can mitigate that with takeaways, and that's what they're doing to teams, and they're finding ways to win these football games. I think they'll continue to do that this week, at least by 7 points.
All right, there we go. Giants haven't left Big D with a win since 2016. I think this is going to be a close game as well. The divisional rivalry always makes it that way, but I'm going to go with Dallas on this one to cover just barely. All right, it is now time for the Superbook Sports Barber Brothers Games of the Week. Before you lock in your picks, make sure you keep on top of the latest lines at superbook.com and download the app. All right, Tiki, we will begin with you. What is your game of the week?
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one for me to pick out of the lineup. I mean, other than the one I'm doing, which is the Houston Texans. I mean, the Tennessee Titans going down to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's like all off-field stories that we're talking about right now.
Right.
However, the Arizona Cardinals, who have come up multiple times, I have the current line at 5.5. It may have shifted, but 5.5, laying 5.5, hosting the San Francisco 49ers, who either will be without Jimmy Garoppolo or with a little bit hampered Jimmy Garoppolo with that calf injury. And I like where some of these young quarterbacks have come as the weeks have gone on. Justin Fields looked good in Chicago last week, and obviously Mac Jones looked really good against the Buccaneers, even though they lost that game. Trey Lance isn't there yet. He's had 46 snaps in 4 games, and a lot of those are just kind of running around and doing things with his legs and not necessarily leading a team. I like the Cardinals because they're going to score. They have an aggressive defense. Chandler Jones, while he had 5 sacks his first week, he hasn't had one since, but the QB pressures are there. They're aggressive in the secondary with Bubba Buddha Bolden. And so I think that they have the ability to negate whatever they're going to put in for packages for Trey Lance. I like the Cardinals at home laying 5.5.
I can't believe you messed up my guy Buda Baker's name. Went to the University of Washington.
I wanted to say
he wasn't going to let that go.
I kept wanting to say Bolden.
I'm not letting you go. He was coached by my defensive back coach Jimmy Lake, who compared Buda Baker to one Rondé Barber.
Oh, shut up! That's
so come on, dude. You can't mess up that name.
I can't wait to get you two in the same room for one of these shows. That's gonna be.
I'm gonna sit with my back to him. Sit with my back to him. I don't want to see him.
Tiki, you were spot on. The Cardinals opened up as a -3.5 point favorite. The latest odds coming in from superbook.com, they are laying 5.5, and the over/under total is at 50. All right, Rondé, you're up next. Give us your game of the week.
My game of the week is the Green Bay Packers with a road advantage at Cincinnati. I'm bucking trend here. I don't care. People are betting Green Bay. They say they're back. I like Cincinnati. I think Joe Burrow has a chance. Think about this. He's only played 14 games in his career. He only played 10 games last year. And he was on his ascent last year when he got hurt.
Yeah.
I did these guys in the preseason, and I was like, this team has no chance. Joe Burrow looked crippled. They completely redid their defense, secondary, like 4 new guys. They brought in Mike Hilton, Chidobe Awuzie, Trey Waynes, and Eli Apple are guys that they brought off this. I'm like, this team has no chance to compete in the NFC or in the AFC North. And here they are at 3-1 in the AFC North, and they're at home against the Green Bay Packers and losing points. I can't imagine right now that Cincinnati is looking at their competition this week and saying, "Oh, I'm just going to succumb to Green Bay and Devontae Adams." Yes, Randall Cobb had a couple of touchdowns last week, but this isn't the same Green Bay Packers team, right? Go look at the stats. Go look where Brett Favre. Go look where Aaron Rodgers is right now in passing. Are they winning games? Yes, but they're not playing great teams. This Cincinnati team is a team that I think is going to be there at the end of the season, and this is their first good test. This is the test where they can say to the world at home, "Hey, we're better than the Green Bay Packers. You got to start recognizing with us." And I think they're going to cover this. I actually think they might win this football game.
Really? So you would? I was just going to ask you that. You might even take a flyer on the money line with the Bengals.
Absolutely, I would. I'm all in on Joe Burrow. Don't ask me why. Maybe it's the what's their famous burger they have. I know they have Hudipole beer there.
Oh yeah. Oh, the bird. Yeah. Oh gosh.
I'm blanking on it too. I've been there. I've been there so many times.
Skyline chili.
That's it. That's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
Skyline
okay.
chili. It's gonna be
All
full.
right.
It's gonna be in everybody's belly on Sunday.
And the line currently, and make sure you keep it to superbook.com for the line changes. But Green Bay opened up as a -3.5 point favorite. It's come down to 3. The over/under is sitting at 50.5 point favorites. Both teams are 3-1. Did I just say that? The Bengals are 3-1.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And coming in also, the Bengals are a plus 825 guys to win the AFC North. That's the third best odds in the division, man. Maybe a flyer, Rondé?
I tell you what, whether it's 100 or 1,000 you want to put on that, it's worth it. That is worth it.
I'm telling you. That division.
Baltimore doesn't look great. Pittsburgh, we know where they are. Cleveland can be had.
Yep.
That's a great bet.
I'd take it. I might take it.
I think we all talked ourselves into it. I mean, get me a Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon jersey right now. I think there's a lot of value in that because you're exactly right. When you look at the Steelers at a 1-3 record and struggling, I think that division's wide open. So I like it, and we'll see. I think what the Bengals did with their offensive line too will keep Burrow healthy after he was destroyed last year and then ultimately injured. All right, so we move on, guys. Those are the games of the week. Excited for our new segment. It's Bet It or Bust It. And what we're going to do, fellas, we're going to just do a rapid fire with 3 different bets that you either love and would bet it, or you hate it and you're going to bust it. So we are going to begin with the NFL MVP. And Lamar Jackson, guys, comes in as a 20-1 odds to win the NFL MVP. Tiki, are you going to bet it or bust it?
I'm busting that one, man. Kyler Murray is my favorite right now. I think there's other guys that are going to run up that poll, including Josh Allen. So I love Lamar. I love his evolution of his game, but I'm busting that one.
And Rondé, for you betting or busting?
Tiki and I shared a womb for 9 months. What he said.
I'm the outsider, but I'm
busting that one.
Oh, fantastic. All right, moving on to our second bet. The over and under in the Denver-Pittsburgh game is at 40. Are you betting it to go under, or are you busting it to go under?
I am betting that to go under. I cannot trust Ben Roethlisberger and his offense to get going. Look, it's the same Ben, little less mobile, without the superstars around him to make the plays for him. That's what's happened to Pittsburgh, and we know Denver. Ron, you can answer this for us. Drew Lock starting at quarterback. I don't see it. So this might be a low scoring affair.
Do we have an official designation on Teddy B with the concussion? Is he out?
Not yet. As of this broadcast, we do not have one yet. They're still talking that he might come and be able to play, but he'll be limited even if he does.
Based on that hit he took, I gotta say no way.
He got drilled. But you know what? I'm gonna bust this one and say it's gonna go over. And you know why? Because Drew Lock is wont to give it to the other team. And the other team I could see go tight field position, easy scoring opportunities. I'm going to say over on this one. Let's not forget Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton. They got some ballers. Noah Fant. They still got some ballers on that side. And if there's a difference between Drew Lock and Teddy B, is it Drew Lock is gunslinging that thing. So I'm going to bust this one and say over.
Wow. Well, you still have to throw the ball to those guys. I mean, get it close, Drew. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. I don't know, guys. If you like offense, you came to the wrong place. If you ask me, Big Ben and Drew Lock. This is like going to be a matchup from 77. I'm betting this one going under. All right. Our third and final bet it or bust it is the New York Jets are a +3 against the Atlanta Falcons in London. Early start on Sunday. Rondé, will go to you
Right.
first.
Just
Are you betting or busting the Jets getting 3?
just touchdown in the London town. Love it over there.
Right.
I played 2 games. I called a game over there, and I'll tell you what, anything happens in London, I am gonna say yes, they're gonna cover. The Jets are gonna cover. Why? Because I think that they took a big step. If even if not schematically and like understanding the defense, just personality wise, with the way that they won that game last week in Tennessee. I mean, they put on a show in the fourth quarter. I mean, that was his best Zach Wilson impersonation that I've seen Zach Wilson make so far. And look, Atlanta's just not trustworthy. They're going to find ways to lose games. They've been finding ways to lose games since, what was that, Super Bowl? I mean, it's been a long time. Changing coach. Yeah, changing coaches, changing front office people. Look, I have a lot of love for Matt Ryan. Arthur Blank's a good buddy of mine, but they find ways to lose games. I think the Jets cover this.
Yeah, that the bet is to cover, right, for the Jets. I would take that one as well. I got to agree here, because let's not forget, now Zach Wilson has struggled this year, obviously, because he's young. He's got a young offensive coordinator and Mike LaFleur. So they're kind of growing into themselves a little bit, and we saw that last week. But the real strength of this Jets team is their defense, right? They get after it up front. That's why they were able to upset the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans had a ton of injuries. Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Saffold, the offensive line, Lawan was out. I mean, they had so many injuries on this team, but they were opportunistic, and I like this defense for the New York Jets, despite they're only getting their first win in week 4. So I'm going to bet this one also for them to cover the 3.
All right, fellas, great job. We appreciate all our viewers and our listeners that tune in every week for Betting with the Barbers. And Superbook is going to reward you, giving you the chance to hang with the Barber Brothers on Super Bowl weekend in Vegas. All you have to do, so easy. Send in a question to the guys via Twitter. The handle is at Superbook Sports, at Rondé Barber, at Tiki Barber, and at R Cruck, and you're in. That's just that easy. And we've had some great comments coming in the last few weeks, guys. We're going to keep that tradition going here. And a question coming in from Tommy Lorenzo. And here's what he asks. Even as good as the Cowboys look, is taking a flyer on the New York Giants at 13-1 to win the NFC East worth throwing a few bucks on? You know, you still have all those division games to play. Let's begin with you, Tiki. What do you think?
God, so much of this is going to do. I mean, you got to do this before the Cowboys game. So, because they've already lost to Washington, I'm going to say probably not worth it. I would save your money till next year, because the Giants are getting there. I know there was some inklings that Joe Judge was on the hot seat, which is just utter nonsense. Like, the Giants have been through too much turnover in their coaching staff to have fired Joe Judge because he started 0-3. And so they're going to get there. Patrick Graham, their defensive coordinator, he's figuring it out, as Rondé said. But I wouldn't bet on them to win the division this year.
All right, Rondé, your thoughts?
Unless you just, you're one of those guys that likes sitting at stoplights and throwing money away. I mean, you like punishment. You like, you like playing Whistling Straits.
Are you a Detroit Lion fan?
Yeah, you like playing Whistling Straits in a Ryder Cup when it's blowing 60 miles per hour. I mean, unless you like punishment, don't take this bet. They're not winning. You can do it, for giggles and say, hey, tell your buddies that, hey, I took 13-1 on the Giants. I'm blue. I'm riding blue. And you're just going to be a little bit poor at the end of the day. So do not take that, buddy.
Tommy, join us. We're all on the Bengals bandwagon to win the division. Join us. Put the kids' college tuition on it. Just kidding.
That's right.
It's entertainment purposes only. Tommy, thank you so much for the question coming in. And again, if you want to be entered into the drawing to spend Super Bowl weekend in Vegas with the Barber Brothers, just send in a question to our handle at Superbook Sports, and you will automatically be entered into the contest. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up another episode of Betting with the Barbers. Any final thoughts before we kick things off on Thursday night?
Be sure to watch the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Tennessee Titans on CBS.
100%. Of course. I'm in.
What you got it, Tiki?
Shameless self-promotion.
I'm only watching if you get the real inside story. Peace, and I'm out.
Oh man, we'll have to recap that. Just don't go clubbing, all right? We're gonna good times in Jacksonville for sure, guys. Great job as always. Make sure to sign up at superbooksports.com. Download the Superbook app for the latest odds, and follow Superbook on social media at Superbook Sports. Betting with the Barbers airs on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And make sure, as I said, to follow us on social media. You can check out the podcast version on Apple and Spotify too. For Rondé and Tiki, I'm Ron Kruk. Enjoy the games, everyone. We'll talk to you next week for another edition of Betting with the Barbers.